Actually, we have no legal obligation to pay a single penny. We came up with the expression, no deal's better than a bad deal. The reality is, WTO is a different type of deal. It's not no deal at all, it's how most other nations around the world operate on it. There's a huge opportunity. If we leave without the terrible deal, we can take back control faster, sooner, and we can give much more certainty to business.
Please welcome to the stage, Richard Tice.
Good evening. Good evening all. I hope the sound works better than that last bit for the rest of the evening. Welcome to Shoreham. Sorry it's not Eastbourne. Extraordinary. They signed a contract and then they said, no, we don't want Richard. We want Nigel, but we don't want Richard. So they canned it. Anyway, it's fantastic to see you all here, all Brexiteers. Now, I want a bit of audience participation. You're not just here to sit around. We need to hear from you. So, firstly, ladies and gentlemen, what do we believe in? Brexit. I really can't hear you. I'm hard of. What do we believe in? Brexit. Do we believe in democracy? Yes. Does Theresa May believe in democracy? Perfect. You're on song. That's always a good start. Some of you may know me. Some of you may not. I've been involved in the world of business for over 30 years as an entrepreneur, mainly in the construction and property business. I've run businesses small, medium and large, including a £1 billion business listed on the stock market. That's the day job. I've had a small night job. I got a bit interested in politics. And rightly or wrongly, I've only ever previously been a member of the Conservative Party. Well, do you know, they said that to me on Saturday. Anyway, I sent a letter last Friday morning resigning from the Conservative Party. And having agreed to be the chairman of the new Brexit Party. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a huge opportunity to change politics for good in this country. And we'll hear more about that later. But we've been going a couple of weeks, and we had our launch press conference last Friday, and then we had 1,500 people in Birmingham, and then here tonight we've got 500 or 600 of you, and it's absolutely amazing. The enthusiasm for democracy, to restore trust in democracy in our country, is absolutely huge. Now, before we welcome, we've got some fantastic speakers tonight, including a real special surprise that I'm hoping you're going to love. But before we listen to the other speakers, we've got the launch video we just thought would play on the screen.
Betrayed. That is why I set up the Brexit Party. It's why we're going to fight the European elections on May the 23rd. And that is just the beginning of what is needed in this country.
Democracy is under threat.
And when politicians fail to deliver, there must be consequences.
I was too young to vote in 2016, but now I support the Brexit Party because I believe in delivering on democracy.
It's time to recognise that actually we are an incredible nation.
This isn't about left or right.
It's about standing up for our right to be heard.
Successful, hard-working, so much to be confident, enthusiastic and optimistic about.
That's why I'm supporting the Brexit Party.
We are a single nation. We wish to remain a nation.
They must adhere to the promises made to the people.
Let's be optimistic.
And for the benefit of our children and grandchildren, if you want a home and you're a Brexiteer, you join the Brexit Party now.
We can do so much better than currently we're getting from our members of Parliament. We want to be an independent, self-governing nation, making its own laws, controlling its own borders, and being proud of who we are as a people. Join us, help us, support us, do what you can for us. We need change in this country, and we need it now. Britain needs the Brexit Party, and the Brexit Party needs you.
We really do. If there's one thing you take away from this evening, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already signed up, please do sign up to be a registered supporter at thebrexitparty.org. Politics, of course, is a serious business. But in the same way that a picture tells 1,000 words, humour can also tell 1,000 words. And we all like a bit of a laugh, don't we? Exactly. How much? That's better. And I have for you this evening, ladies and gentlemen, a global exclusive. Who here has seen the Burger King video about Brexit? Good man. Anyone else? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a global exclusive of a gentleman who's come up with one of the funniest videos, not only ever, but in particular, about Brexit. So please welcome to the stage a rising, up-and-coming star. He's a true hero, a passionate Brexiteer, Mr. Alistair Williams.
Please welcome to the stage, Alistair Williams.
Thank you. Good evening. Do you know what I love about this country? It's a nation of people that never gives up. Did you know this lady from the NHS was on TV? Did you know the UK used to be the most overweight country in Europe? And then we fixed that problem by leaving Europe. Or at least that was the plan anyway. You see what we could have done at the moment with the most overweight country in Europe? If we'd have left, we'd all be average size right now. And you know the thing that bothers me? It's like they moved the date to Halloween. It's like, can you at least pretend that you're not evil? You know, she's going to come to work on a broomstick. It's like, you're not evil, are you? Oh, no. I'm just going to park up the broomstick, then I'm going to do some evil. And I'm trying to explain to people that don't live in this country why everyone is so annoyed. And the way I explain it to people, it's like, imagine if you and 10 of your friends were in a Burger King, right? And some people wanted to leave the Burger King, and some people didn't. So you had a vote. Who wants to leave Burger King? And 6 people were like, yeah, we want to leave, right? And then somebody who wanted to stay was like, okay, I'll get us out of here. I'll have a word with the manager. I'll get us a deal. It's like, do we need a deal? Can't we just leave? Oh, no, you've got to have a deal. Can't we just leave? The door's right there. Oh, no, that would be anarchy. You've got to have a deal. I'll talk to the manager. I'll get us a deal. You want to leave? Yeah, I want to leave, right? So she goes to talk to the manager. She comes back 2 years later. It's like during all that time, she's like, I've been trying to get us out of here. The door says push. She's pulling that thing. She's going, come on. It's like, what have you been doing? It's like, I've spoken to the manager. I've done us a great deal. What's the deal? We've got to pay the manager £40 billion. And then we get to leave. Technically, yes. What do you mean technically? Well, physically, we'll still be in the Burger King. But if anyone asks you, are you in Burger King? You'll be able to tell them, no, we left. It's quite disconcerting. It feels like, you know, the country's falling apart, but it's not going to. Okay? This is not the island that watches the world fall apart. This is the island that holds it together. But I don't know if you've noticed this, but British people, we're not very popular anymore. Have you noticed that? Nobody likes British people anymore, and nobody knows why. Did you know, historical fact for you, the British have been to war with 75% of the countries in the world. And we don't know why no one likes us. How would you feel if you said to your other half, how many people have you slept with besides me? And they were like, oh, about 70, 75% of everyone. Right? We've had a fight with everyone. We had a fight with Argentina over who owns the Falkland Islands. They are based right on the coast of Argentina. Who do you think might be right? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Alistair, you don't understand the complicated political situation that surrounds the Falkland Islands. And you're right, I don't. But here's what I do understand. If a group of people from Kenya came over here and said, hey, I think we own the Isle of Wight, yeah, none of you would be like, well, let's have a look at the paperwork. Right? This is why we haven't got any friends anymore. British people, who are our friends? Australians and Americans. That's it. Right. That's true. Why do you think that is? They can't be bothered to learn a second language either. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. Right? We're not even very nice to our friends. We get mad at Australians when they beat us at cricket. Whose fault is this? Australian people used to live here, and then we picked them up and we left them on an island surrounded by the world's most venomous snakes and spiders. And now we're like, it looks like their reaction times have improved. No. And then British people go to Australia and we go, oh, it's a nice country, but there's no culture here. It's like we left these people on Jurassic Park. You can't come back a few hundred years later and be like, oh, they've only got one opera house. Do you guys like conspiracy theories? Okay. Have you ever met an Australian that likes opera? They're always showing you the outside of that opera house. I reckon it's a bowling alley on the inside, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you what, I do love this country. It's a very interesting country. I think British people are the most British on public transport, right? I was on a train once, and it's a packed train. There's no room on this train. Everyone's sort of squeezed in. And then the ticket inspector gets on. And most ticket inspectors wouldn't check the tickets under these circumstances. But this guy was like, no, where's your ticket? Where's your ticket? Excuse me, where's your ticket? He checks everyone's ticket. And then a guy shouted down the train, what a job's worth. And a bunch of people laughed. He must have been a professional, right? And then a German fellow was standing next to me. He goes, excuse me, what does this word mean? Have you ever tried to explain the concept of the word job's worth to anyone outside of the United Kingdom? Right, let alone someone from Germany. I'm like, well, basically what that train guard is doing is he's trying very hard at work. He goes, and that is an insult? I'm like, in this country, yes. You can't come into work and start trying hard. People get very irritated. But we're very selective over who we call a job's worth. Like if a policeman stops you, you're like, what a job's worth. Right? If you're going on a bungee jump, and the guy's like, I'm just going to double check the ropes. You're not like, oh, what a job's worth this guy is. Do you know what else I've noticed about this country? You know how every nation has like a national symbol, like an animal that represents their nation, and Britain has got the lion. And that doesn't really make any sense. Like, lions don't live here. We should have a duck or a chicken or something lame. But we've just got a lion. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Everyone else's makes sense. Yes, that's a dragon. Well done. Excellent flag waving. Good job. Can see how you got a front row seat. Well done. Right? Everyone else's makes sense. Russia has got a bear as their national symbol. That makes sense. You know, Russia's like a bear. It's big and it's strong, and you don't want to live anywhere near it because it'll just walk over and start eating all your stuff. You know what I mean? Like America's got an eagle. America, it kind of fights like an eagle. It swoops down out of the air. It destroys everything on the ground. And then it just flies off, going, not my problem anymore. Right? And Britain's got the lion. And you know why I think that makes sense? Because lions don't live here. They live in Africa. But technically, we're all from Africa. So I identify as a British lion from Africa. You're all looking at me like I'm crazy. You don't think there's such a thing as a British lion from Africa. Have you guys seen The Lion King? You know Scar, the bad guy? He's not from Africa. Listen to him talk. He's like, hello, Simba. Come over here, and I'm going to help you out. That's what I'm going to do. Any questions? No questions at all. Okay. One last thing before I go. People say mean things about this country. When you say you love this country, they say mean things. Like they say Britain is a racist country. And there is racism here, but we don't stand for it. It's like if Britain is a racist country, what's going on with fish and chips? Do you know what I mean? Okay, let me explain. Right, I come from South London. There's 3 fish and chip shops near where I live, and one of them is owned and operated by a family from China. And you know who eats there? Everyone. Because it's the best fish and chip shop. But we all eat there. And if you don't think that is incredible, do me a favor. Go to China, open up a restaurant that serves Chinese food with a picture of your face on the front, and let me know how many customers you get. Thank you. You guys have been a great audience. My name is Alistair Williams. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.
Isn't it great? Absolutely fantastic. If you haven't watched the Burger King and you want to hear it again, you'll find it on the internet. It really is fantastic. And I just want to say before we carry on, a huge thank you to Gary Harvey, the owner of this warehouse, who at very short notice made this possible. We're enormously grateful to him. Please give him a round of applause. And of course, it's lovely to have a warm welcome inside and a slightly noisy welcome outside. But you know, we live in a democracy, that's fine. And as we know, because we haven't left the European Union at the 29th of March or the 12th of April, so it goes on, we're having European elections on the 23rd of May. And that's the first thing that we, the Brexit Party, are totally focused on. We're not going to do the council elections. We're just focused on the Europeans. And we announced our first 4 candidates last Friday, including Jacob's sister, which obviously made a little bit of news. And I'm delighted this evening to announce another candidate, someone who has been a passionate Brexiteer and who has sacrificed a huge amount in order to stand up for what he believes in. He is the former Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce. He's also the chairman of Leave Means Leave. He's a fantastic entrepreneur, businessman. Before we welcome John Longworth to the stage, let's just see him in action, hopefully on a video.
The problem is, of course, that trust in the politicians is completely broken down because they have lied so many times. I mean, our own Prime Minister has said over 120 times in Parliament, on the record, we would leave on the 29th of March. Look what has happened here.
You use the 39 billion to be able to cut taxes, to be able to invest in infrastructure. You remove tariffs selectively on things that we do not produce ourselves to reduce the cost of living and give people more space. There may be a problem in terms of parliamentary numbers, but the British people voted for Brexit. And the Conservative Party will suffer very badly for letting the British people down and actually breaking their own commitments in the manifesto.
Please welcome to the stage, John Longworth.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here and sparing your time this evening. It's very good of you to come out and listen to us. It's a very important moment in time for British politics. You've heard a little bit on the video. I've been a business person all of my life. I've done business on every continent. I've been involved in trade and international standards. So I sort of know when the CBI are fibbing. It's just over 3 years ago now that I stood down as Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce, and I stood down at the time because I was so appalled at the project fear that the government were running, fooling the British people, or trying to fool the British people. Of course, they didn't fool us, did they? Trying to fool the British people about what Brexit was all about. I could not stand it, that they were doing this. And of course, when I stood down, number 10 went absolutely insane. No doubt they're going insane again today. They went insane. I had telephone calls from number 10 with very, very strong language, saying that I was doing entirely the wrong thing. And, you know, 3 years later, I still feel that I did entirely the right thing. But, you know, it is 3 years, isn't it? Who would have thought that 3 years after voting to take back control of our laws, borders, and money, that we would still be here today having to fight this thing? The first article I wrote after resigning was for the Evening Standard, and it was titled, "Is This the New Peasants' Revolt?" And by the way, I'm one of the peasants. But I said at the end of the article, beware, look what happened in the original Peasants' Revolt in medieval times. Look what happened to them. Beware, because the establishment are vicious in pursuit of their own vested interests. And so it has been, because the opponents of Brexit are people who have vested interests. This is not now just about Brexit. Brexit is the most important thing for our country. But it is not just about that. It is now about the democratic system and democracy in the UK, because the democratic system is being broken and the party system is being broken, and we have a huge opportunity with the Brexit Party to have a peaceful political revolution in the UK and actually move things forward in a way that will create a better future for our people. But I've also campaigned in the last 3 years because I actually believe that leaving the European Union will increase our prosperity. We will actually do much better as a nation. And I'll just give you a few brief examples of this. You know, the European Union forces us to charge taxes on anything that we import from outside the EU. They're called tariffs. And those tariffs are huge. You know, the one that always sticks in my mind is that we have to charge a tariff of 70% on imported canned peaches. Now, I mean, I'm old enough, I actually quite liked peach Melba. Not many people sort of eat this sort of thing nowadays, but 70% to protect Italian peach farmers. And that money goes to Brussels. Now, it's on the wholesale price, so 70% off the wholesale price would probably mean half the cost of canned peaches. But it applies to other things too. Footwear, trainers, which we don't produce in the UK anymore. Flat screen TVs, you charge 20% tariffs. So after you've taken off the wholesale retail difference, you probably end up with a 10% reduction in all of those goods. And it goes on. It's across the entire board of consumer goods. We would reduce the cost of living for ordinary families in the UK hugely just by making the tariffs on things that we do not produce in the UK zero. The French farmers wouldn't like it. German manufacturers wouldn't like it because they're protected by these tariffs. But it would actually put more money in your pockets. It would boost the economy because you'd have more to spend, and we would have a growth rate spurt. Don't let them fool you. We would be better off if we left the European Union just by the removal of tariffs. But look. And we could choose to do that ourselves. We don't need trade deals to do that. Trade deals would be great, but we can do that the day after. In fact, our wonderful Chancellor of the Exchequer, Philip Hammond, whom we all love, said himself only a few weeks ago, if, shock horror, we left the European Union with no deal, he would have to remove 87% of all the tariffs. It was a threat. He also said that you have to use the £12 billion a year that we have as a net contribution to the EU. This is the real figure, 12 billion, the stuff we don't get back. We'd have to use it to cut taxes on businesses and personal income tax. It was a threat. Well, I'd vote for that, wouldn't you? And the £39 billion that we're going to hand over to the European Union, I'd quite like to see that improving our roads and having better rail systems locally. Improving the A303 to the southwest, having a proper rail line from Liverpool to Hull. You know, those things would be marvellous, wouldn't they? And that was a threat. He thought that was a jolly bad thing. Cut taxes, cut tariffs, spend the money on infrastructure in the UK. Is he insane? That's what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. And if we leave the European Union, which I'm determined to make sure that we do, that's the benefit that the UK will have amongst many others. And as I always say, you know, it'll be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not yet the end. Thank you very much.
Right yourself there. The calm voice of reason, logic, and business experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, to our next speaker, he needs a little introduction. He's been at this game for a few years now. In fact, over 25 years has he been battling to get our beloved country out of the European Union. And whilst he needs a little introduction, it's worth just reminding ourselves that he has probably had more influence, more impact on British politics than any other single individual in this country in the last 70 years. And he's had to sacrifice a huge amount. You know, the impact on security, on his health, family, has all played a toll. But the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is, you know, he's had a couple of holidays. He tells me he's eating a bit less. I'll let you form your own view. But the good news is, he is here. Before we welcome Nigel to the stage, let's just see him in action on the video.
What politicians do when they're in trouble is they threaten people, they bully people. So it's my way or the highway.
You're not prepared to give an inch. The reason that a no-deal Brexit's got a little bit closer is because of the sheer language and attitude towards the United Kingdom.
Anybody that has ever been in business knows that when you sit down for a negotiation, both sides are prepared to walk away unless terms can be agreed.
People weren't agreed on what leave meant.
Simple.
There
Leave,
was no
full stop.
manifesto.
Leave, full stop.
But there is
Leaving
no
the
leave,
single
full
market.
stop.
Please welcome to the stage, Nigel Farage.
I didn't need the steps. Thank you, boys. Thank you very, very much. Good evening, Shoreham. After a short intermission, I'm back. I haven't spent 25 years of my life fighting and battling against the establishment, against the vested interests, to see all of those promises that were made. And remember, in the referendum, we were promised by that leaflet, that nice David Cameron. Remember him? Few do. But that leaflet David Cameron sent us, which said, however you vote, the result will be implemented. We then had a general election in which both the Labour and Conservative parties told us, vote for us and we will implement Brexit. We then had 498 of our MPs voted for Article 50, which said we would leave the European Union at 11 p.m. on the 29th of March with or without a deal. And what we have seen from our government, our cabinet, our parliament, our elected career politicians is nothing less than a betrayal of democracy in this country.
this appeared on page 53 of the Times newspaper today under the deaths column. I'm not kidding, it really did. And it says, deaths, UK democracy at 11 p.m. on the 29th of March 2019. Age 312. It was with sad regret that democracy died quietly in her sleep. The cause of death was foul play, and the culprits are yet to be brought to justice. Democracy campaigned for the rule of law, human rights, free elections. She listened to everyone and favoured the majority in all decisions. She will be sorely missed. God have mercy on her soul. That appeared in the Times today. And actually, that's why we're here. We're not here to once again go over the arguments about why we should leave the European Union. I mean, personally, I don't want us to be run by a bunch of unelected old men based in Brussels. I've had enough. I've had enough of the arrogance and the bullying of Tusk and of Barnier and of Juncker. I mean, Juncker, before lunch is all right, afterwards he's not much cop. And I'm sick of the condescension and the loathing from Verhofstadt and all the rest of them. And I have to tell you that after this meeting, I'm heading straight to Strasbourg for my last speech in front of all of them in this term of the European Parliament. And I'm looking forward. But we don't need to rehearse those arguments. We don't need to rehearse the fact that Theresa May giving away £39 billion in order to get us out of the European Union. We don't need to rehearse the fact that that was a dreadful deal that she did. We don't need to rehearse the fact that only by leaving the European Union can we open up and re-engage with our real friends across the world, and by that I mean those Commonwealth nations who are really our friends. We don't need to do those things because what we're now fighting for is much, much bigger than Brexit. What we are now fighting for is for the survival of the very principle of democracy in this country. Can you imagine if an African country held an election and the result of the election was annulled? Oh my goodness gracious me, that mob outside would be up in arms. The West would be up in arms. We'd be demanding the United Nations were sent in. And yet that is what is happening in one of the oldest functioning democracies in the world. That is what is happening in the nation that gave birth to what is known as the Mother of Parliaments. That is happening in a nation whose generations that went before us gave massive sacrifice to defend the very principle of freedom, liberty, and democracy. So this is about democracy. This is about the essential bond of trust that needs to exist between the governors and the governed for us to live in a good, peaceful, successful, happy society. This is about who we are as a nation and how the rest of the world views us. And I can tell you, because I do speak to one or two world leaders, without obviously giving away any trade secrets. But no, let's be honest, folks. The rest of the world say to me, we've always thought of you as being a great country. And yet we look at you right now and we're not sure whether to laugh or to cry. That is what this Parliament has done to our nation. We are living through one of the saddest chapters in the history of this country. This is a total and utter humiliation, and it simply isn't good enough. But that is not how the people feel. The people of this country, despite everything, are still, in the main, optimistic, entrepreneurial, proud of who we are, unashamed, for the most part, to be patriotic, keen that we win at football and cricket. And isn't it funny that the Union Jack, which we were told years ago we shouldn't display the Union Jack, it's a form of extremism, now we see kids all over the world wearing Union Jack T-shirts. There's something actually, I believe there's been a rejuvenation in this country of national self-confidence among the people. We are truly lions led by donkeys. So be clear about what the Brexit Party has been founded for. In the short term, we will go on and fight those European elections that will happen on May the 23rd. I now believe that it's actually impossible that those elections could be stopped. The only way they would be stopped is if Mrs. May signed up to a deal with Mr. Corbyn, which kept us stuck permanently in a customs union and under single market rules. A message to you, Prime Minister, if you think by doing that deal and cancelling the European elections that the threat of Farage and the Brexit Party will go away, you're in for a rude shock. If they betray us that much, this will explode. But our task and our mission is not just to focus the considerable anger that is there in this country, and I understand it. It isn't just to provide those who are despondent with hope, though goodness me, many millions right now do need it. Our task is not just to fight those European elections on May the 23rd, and John, can I say, with people of your calibre now coming on board in all my 20 years in the European Parliament, I cannot think of a single British MEP with your distinguished business background, and we are proud to have you on board as a representative. But this is not just about May the 23rd. Our ambitions go far higher than that. We are now living in a country where the two-party system cannot cope with Brexit. We're living in a country where the two-party system is no longer fit for purpose and it needs to be broken up. We're living in a country where Parliament no longer reflects the will of the people. We're living in a country that is in need of a peaceful, democratic revolution that realigns politics, that makes Parliament actually represent the views of this people. We want to change politics for good. We want to change politics for good, and the only way we're going to do this, the only way we're going to succeed, is if people like you who attend these rallies and those six-figure numbers that are watching us now on live stream, I don't want you just to agree with us. That's no use. I want you to sign up with us. I want you to help us. I want you to propagate the message for us. I want you, because I believe that Britain needs the Brexit Party, and the Brexit Party needs you. Thank you. All right, boy.
Right, I'm
How are we on timing?
How are we doing?
We're doing pretty well, aren't we? Come on, fighting back. Come on. Let's get up there. We're fighting back. We're fighting back. We're fighting back. We're fighting back. Brexit.
When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
Brexit.
When do we want it?
Now. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
How are we
Right.
on timing, Richard?
How are you doing?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Nigel has got to disappear to Strasbourg for that last speech, as he referred earlier. And amongst all the noise, the doom and the gloom, let's just celebrate what an incredible, proud, strong nation we really are. The media forget to tell us that we're the 5th biggest economy in the world, that we're a member of the G7, a permanent member of the UN Security Council. We're part of the Five Eyes security network. We are a strong, bold nation. 3 of the top 10 universities in the world, the best trained armed forces. These are incredible things delivered not by government, but by us, the people. We've also got, believe it or not, the greatest football league in the world. And I'm sure you all agree to support Liverpool like me. I knew that wouldn't go well. And despite all the doom and the gloom, let's just remember, possibly thanks to Brexit, we're outperforming Germany, France, and Italy. We've got record numbers of people employed in this country, record low levels of unemployment. And thanks to Brexit, wages are now rising faster than inflation. So we should be poised to go from strength to strength. But of course, you and I know that requires competent, confident, bold, visionary leadership. And it's in pretty short supply. Because we've been utterly, as Nigel said, utterly humiliated on the global stage, writing not one, but 2 begging letters to overseas leaders in the space of a fortnight, asking for permission what to do. You couldn't make this stuff up. We are led by incompetent leaders, incapable negotiators, and a government and the Houses of Parliament of MPs who want to do dodgy, dirty, nasty, backroom deals with each other to stay in the customs union to stop these European elections. Furthermore, this withdrawal agreement, I mean, let's just remind ourselves how this is the worst deal in history. I mean, it's unbelievable. Who on earth in this room would walk into a house that you are thinking about buying? You don't ask the price, you say, I want to buy it. How much? I don't care, I just want to buy it. Who would do that? So why would anybody offer to pay 39 billion quid? That's our money, folks. Just for the right to chat. We haven't even got a deal. Just for the right to chat. We literally would be tied up in a straitjacket, and the only key to that straitjacket, the padlock to that straitjacket, would give to the bureaucrats in Brussels. Truly, the worst deal in history. And what's happened is our civil service, supposedly the envy of the world, have actually been found out. They're not up to the job. And this was confirmed only in the last couple of days, when they thought, it's a good idea, now that we've got a 6-month extension, as Alistair reminded us, until Trick or Treat Day, back in the end of October. It probably is a trick, it's definitely not a treat. I mean, you just couldn't. So the civil service think it's a good idea, instead of ramping up preparations for a managed no deal, which is what we should be doing because that would increase our negotiating leverage. No. Let's stop the no deal preparations. That's a really good negotiating tactic, isn't it? Brilliant. Another reason why they are completely and utterly clueless. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the Brexit Party, we're going to bring in fantastic candidates because this country needs change. We've had enough of this failing two-party system, as Nigel says. We've got to get some candidates elected. We've got to take on the establishment. We've got to take on the vested interests. We've got to reform the civil service. Because we all know that we deserve so much better. And the Brexit Party stands for competent, capable, common sense politics. It's not left or right, it's a case of right or wrong. And so do you know, there's really something happening, folks, because thousands and thousands and thousands of people are signing up online and they're donating. There is a real movement, a groundswell of opinion that actually, as Nigel said, enough is enough. We've really got to change politics for good. The opportunity is there, and the European elections can be a springboard for that change. Seriously. Because we need better MPs, we need better leaders to spend our money smarter, more wisely, more effectively, to invest it properly, and to cut out the waste that we all know is there all over the place. It's got to change, and change is well overdue. So, and I think what we're really feeling is that politics is poised for change. Never, ladies and gentlemen, never has the opportunity been greater. And we believe never has the appetite been stronger. So I say to all of you, to everybody listening, tell your friends, something is happening. We want change, and actually we can do it. We need to restore trust in our democracy. And in these European elections, we mean to win them. We need people to send a very clear message to Westminster. Enough is enough. We meant it the first time. Because we all know that Brexit is a huge opportunity for this country. And it is just a tragedy that there's no politicians, there's no leaders of any main party in this country, until now, until us, that is out there selling it as a huge opportunity for change, for hope, for optimism, for renewal, and for regeneration. That's what Brexit is, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to spread the message and believe it. And let's be honest, folks. Let's believe in Britain, because we are an incredible, proud, strong nation. Do we believe in Britain? Yes. I can't hear you. Do we believe in Britain? Yes. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. Fantastic. We're warming up. Right. Now, Nigel's got to go. We're just going to have a quick question and answer session, but please just give Nigel a very warm thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Cheers, Richard. Thanks
Brilliant.
very much indeed.
Right. So, we've got a few questions here. There's some great ones. Vicky from Littlehampton says, does the Brexit Party have any candidates for the local elections? Well, just to be absolutely clear, the answer to that is no. We're just focusing at the moment on the Europeans, and then we will focus on the general election. Terry from Dorking, can we buy a Brexit Party badge? Not yet, but all things in good time. We haven't quite got the merchandise going. Nigel's just missed this one, but I always like this. Mavis. Mavis, are you here? From Lancing? Nigel, why aren't you Prime Minister? Say again? Yeah, the odds have reduced, absolutely. John, are we right on all of this? Or should we listen to the business leaders of the CBI and your friends, the Chambers of Commerce, and all their sort of concerns and anxieties? What do you say to that?
Well, I'll just give you a few facts about these organisations. If you add all the business organisations in the country together, they represent less than 1 in 5 businesses. Even if you believe the numbers that they say that they have as members, which of course are not right. I was chairman of a panel of the CBI and their economic spokesperson for 5 years when I was on the board of ASDA. So I've not only done the BCC, I've done the CBI as well. I know how they work. They are small groups who have policy panels who make up the information that they give out in accordance with their main sponsors, the people who pay their bills, basically, a lot of whom are foreign-owned or foreign-run multinationals. And the most vocal companies in the UK that have been talking about Brexit being a bad thing have actually been foreign-owned or foreign-run multinationals. So don't believe what they're saying. We have a very, very large number. I have a large network of entrepreneurs, people who own their own businesses in the UK, quite apart from the ones we all know about, like Dyson, Lord Bamford at JCB, and Tim Martin, wonderful Tim Martin at Wetherspoons, and so on. All these business owners believe in Brexit because they're the people who actually create wealth. They're not the CEOs of companies who are waiting for their next big bonus, who are only going to be there for 3 years before they buzz off and do something else. All they want is to keep the status quo. They want protectionism. They do not want to rock the boat. So don't believe what these people say.
Quite right. Another one for you, John. Everything Theresa May has said she won't do, she's U-turned on. Do you think she'll call a second referendum?
I think she's quite capable of doing anything, frankly. I mean, if you have a Conservative Prime Minister who is prepared to talk seriously with a Marxist in order to get a deal that would create a situation in which the UK would be locked permanently as a vassal state without any say, as a colony of the European Union, I mean, how low can you get? She has said over 120 times that we would leave on the 29th of March 2019. She said over 100 times that no deal is better than a bad deal. She's lied and lied and lied. So she's quite capable of doing anything.
Hayden from Portsmouth asked about, is it too late to register as a potential candidate for the European elections? So we have literally had hundreds and hundreds of applications. So we have had to close that list. We're going through those because we've got to make some very, very quick decisions. But we will then be inviting people to apply for potential parliamentary candidates, because there could well be, for all we know, given the current state of politics in this country, there could well be a general election within the next 12 months or so. So that's for the future. But, you know, let's be very, very clear about this. There's another question. After the European elections, is the Brexit Party going to carry on? Yes, we are here to stay. We are here with the ambition of changing politics in the UK. We're doing well. John, why do we fail to mention that Europe is a failing state and economically toxic?
Well, that's a good intro, isn't it? Because we hadn't got enough time. I mean, clearly the European Union has real problems. We can't rely on the European Union, of course, to reform itself or even to collapse, because it's so important. The European project is so important to Germany in particular, they will do anything to maintain it. You know, I went to Berlin with Owen Paterson, the former minister, to talk to a large group, 450 top industrialists, politicians and civil servants. Incidentally, it was a sort of secret society, this group, the Koenigsteiner group. It was very clear to me that they are completely committed to the German European project. They were prepared to go to any lengths to make sure that it survives. But they're going to have real problems because the Italian banking system is literally bust. And the Italian banking system is propped up by French and German banks, so they have a real problem. One of the reasons they want to keep the UK in the European Union is that they want to socialise those costs, because they know that if they have to bail out countries like Italy, the taxpayers in Europe will be the ultimate people who will carry the can. And they're desperate to make sure that British taxpayers, because we're one of the big net contributors to the EU, are in that, and therefore we can do that rather than out and escape that cost. There's a huge amount of problems within the European Union. And finally, I would say, I've always wondered why people in Europe don't get even angrier than they are. I mean, what would happen in the UK if you had 25% unemployment, like they do in Spain, or 40% like Greece, and that youth unemployment was so high, it's running at 50%. These are terrible things. The European bureaucracy and the project have done terrible things to the people of Europe. They have done really bad things. And Europe is a rotten state.
This is from Robert from Gatwick. This is a good question. If Theresa May makes a deal, will we have any scope to change it? John.
I wish Nigel was still here. I mean, I think fundamentally the situation is simply this. The UK does not break treaties. We historically have very rarely broken a treaty, even though the treaty may have been created under duress. Because if you break a treaty, other countries tend not to trust you. And that causes major problems internationally. The problem with the withdrawal agreement is that it is an international treaty. And we will be signing up to a treaty before we've even done the deal and paid £39 billion for the privilege. It's complete madness. We've got to make sure that we don't sign a treaty, an international treaty that gives away our freedom, because there is really no way out.
I think this is an important one. Do we think now is the time for civil disobedience after the elite for what they've done to us? And the simple answer to that is no. The simple answer is, you know, we believe in peaceful, democratic protest, and by winning through convincing voters to vote for us. And that's absolutely essential. And as John said, what's your expression about being all right in the end?
My stock phrase is, you know, don't worry, it'll be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end.
And that's the key point. We will keep battling away, and ladies and gentlemen, in the end, we will persevere, we will leave the European Union. Of that, there is no doubt. And let's be clear, this sort of suggestion about a second referendum, and now there's some rather dodgy language just sort of appeared in the last couple of weeks. A confirmatory referendum. I mean, you couldn't make this up. What does confirmatory mean? It couldn't have been clearer. I mean, leave does mean leave, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But this is all part of their trickery. Let's be very clear. Heaven forbid there is a second referendum. If the question was, if there was to be a second referendum at all, the only question should be the dreadful Theresa May deal that's already been turned down quite rightly 3 times in Parliament, or leaving without a deal. I have to say, I think the only question whether we would win that 80-20 or 90-10, but we would win that hands down. But if it's a question of a confirmatory referendum between her woeful deal and Remain, forget it. We boycott that. That is not valid. That is literally banana republic stuff, as Nigel inferred earlier. Because we believe in democracy, and we know what we voted for. And let's remember, it's 40 years since we last had a vote on this thing. You know, the government, they promised us this is a once-in-a-generation decision. Fine, I tell you what. We might agree to have another referendum in 15 to 20 years after we've left. That's fine. We can review things and see how it's gone. We all know it would go fantastically. But you don't have a second referendum before we've even implemented the first. You all right? Alistair's been very patient, but I just want to remind us, how long does it take to leave a Burger King?
12 years.
Oh, it's gone up. It was 2, now it's 12.
Yeah, it's 12. Well, we haven't left yet, you see.
You've got to see the video. It's great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming this evening. If you haven't signed up, please do. Tell your family, tell your friends. Seriously, we've got to do this. We can make it happen. We can start to change politics in this country. We must do for our future generations. So have a safe trip home. Thank you very much. Before we leave, let's just stand up again, lift up our placards and remind ourselves. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Thank you very much. Have a great trip home.